And right now I am pleased to introduce our speaker for this morning, Reverend Phillip Lund. He is a congregational life consultant for the MidAmerica Region of the UUA. He has over 25 years of experience serving congregations in areas of faith formation and spiritual growth as a religious educator in Bloomington, Indiana, New York City, and Chicago, Illinois. Currently, he lives in St. Paul, Minnesota with his wife, Julia, their son, Henry David, and their cat, Nicola. Welcome, Reverend Lund.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the microphone's working. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. It's been a while, and I don't think we could have picked a more lovely day. So, yes. When I first got involved with Unitarian Universalism some 30 years ago, I spent a little time getting to know the principles and purposes. After all, they were and still are a fairly comprehensive and reasonably succinct statement of our living tradition. In fact, there was a time when I actually read the 7 principles every morning as sort of a spiritual practice. There they are, right there. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. While reviewing the 7 principles each day did serve to ground me in my faith as a Unitarian Universalist, I couldn't help but notice a couple things. One, they really are a bit prosaic. They were, after all, written by a committee, and as one of my seminary professors used to say, they were never meant to sing. The other thing I noticed is that the word love is nowhere to be found. Love is mentioned in the 6 sources twice, the transforming power of love in the 2nd source, and responding to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves in the 4th. But in the principles, love is noticeably absent. Even in some of the alternative forms of the 7 principles, love fails to make an appearance, like this version from a popular booklet for children. Each person is important, be kind in all you do, we're free to learn together and search for what is true. All people need a voice, be fair, build a fair and peaceful world, and we care about Earth's lifeboat. And here's an updated version from the We Are Unitarian Universalist video that came out over a decade ago, which presents the principles as 7 real-world values: believing in the worthiness of every person, showing compassion and fairness, accepting others for who they are, growing through a personal search for truth, leading with democratic spirit, working for justice, and understanding that everything is connected. Stylistically, a little bit tighter than the original, but love is still not there. So, I was pleased that when the UUA board established the Article 2 Study Commission, the members were explicitly charged to root their work in love as a principal guide in the committee's work, attending particularly to the ways that we and our root traditions have understood and articulated love and how we have acted out of love. And indeed, when the Commission presented their final version of the revised Article 2, love is at the top, front and center. We draw from our heritages of reason, freedom, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. One could make a case that this is the most radical change in the new Article 2, the statement that we are ultimately accountable to one another through love at the center of our values. But it's not just love, it's the spiritual discipline of love. When I first saw that phrase, I immediately thought it was a little squishy because both things, love and a spiritual discipline, are kind of hard to define. After all, the basic definitions of the noun love from Oxford Languages and Google, you can tell where I found this, an intense feeling of deep affection. Babies fill parents with feelings of love and a great interest and pleasure in something. His love of football, which in Wisconsin is important. And the definition of the verb love, they are two definitions. Feel deep affection for someone. He loved his sister dearly and like or enjoy very much. I just love dancing. Okay. So I think it's this sort of popular and maybe simple description of love that has contributed to some of the more vehement responses we've heard from folks who oppose the changes in our association that the new Article 2 presupposes. UUA President Sophia Bentoncourt has revealed that she recently had an email exchange with somebody who didn't want to be called beloved, which Sophia usually does in her emails and when she preaches. And there are reports of congregational meetings about Article 2 where folks have said, I don't come here to be loved. But I'm not surprised by these reactions, though. After all, for a long time, love has been tucked away in those 2 of the 6 sources. And for years, the average UU may have been able to attend services and listen to sermons and perhaps not hear a whole lot about love. But now it's at the center. And we're being asked to be accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Now, in addition to graduating from one of our UU seminaries, I've also been trained as a spiritual director, so spiritual discipline is something I've spent some time thinking about. So here's one definition I find useful. Spiritual disciplines are habits, practices, and experiences that are designed to develop, grow, and strengthen certain qualities of the Spirit. Now, of course, that's a bit of a circular definition. That's why I think it's a little squishy, right? Spiritual disciplines develop the Spirit. But you get the idea. A spiritual discipline is a habit designed to develop a certain quality in us. And my question is, if love is the quality we're trying to develop through the spiritual practice of love, what sort of love is it? As I think about what this means for me, I return to the original charge from the UUA board to the Article 2 Study Commission, that it should attend particularly to the ways that we and our root traditions have understood and articulated love, and how we have acted out of love. As Unitarian Universalists, we are being asked to practice a spiritual discipline of love that grows out of our tradition and reflects how we collectively and historically understood, articulated, and acted out of love. Obviously, I've been giving this quite a bit of thought lately, and I've consciously and unconsciously been looking for resources to help me make sense of it all. And here's one. Last month, I was in Chicago with my MidAmerica colleagues for a staff retreat. As part of that retreat, we were asked to complete a character strengths profile from the VIA Institute on Character. We received an individualized profile that listed 24 character strengths in rank order of signature strengths, the top 5, middle strengths, the 14 in the center, and finally, the lesser strengths, not weaknesses, just the lesser strengths, the bottom 5. On the first day of our retreat, a facilitator led us through a number of activities where we explored how our differing strengths impacted our work as a team. To be honest, it seemed like pretty much standard corporate team building fare, destined to gather virtual dust in a forgotten folder somewhere on my work computer. But toward the end of the day, the facilitator mentioned one component of this instrument that caught my attention. It was called simply virtues. Virtues are the higher order, broader categories under which our individual character strengths were grouped. And they are, according to the VIA Institute, justice, wisdom, transcendence, temperance, courage, and humanity. Now, the first thing I noticed here is that love of itself is not a virtue, which, given its squishiness, is appropriate. However, each of the virtues has its own pathway strength. The highest strength in that virtue category, they say, that serves as a pathway to activate that virtue. The pathway strength of humanity is love. I think that's particularly appropriate for Unitarian Universalists because, as Rebecca Parker, former president of Starr King School for the Ministry, once said, in place of God, we have emphasized human responsibility. We know that it is in our hands to create justice, equity, compassion, and peace. And to that, I would add love. If there is any kind of love that is going to make a difference in our lives on this earth, it is a love that is expressed through our humanity. And the capacity to express that love can be developed, grown, and strengthened through the habits, practices, and experiences of a spiritual discipline. The character strengths profile provided me with some approaches to practicing a spiritual discipline of love from this perspective. For example, the reflection question that goes with the virtue of humanity asks, how will you become more focused on others and your relationships with them? What are some ways to build connections? I could imagine a spiritual practice of love, something like the one Reverend Laurel Holman wrote about in her essay, Living by Heart, found in the classic UU book on spirituality, Everyday Spiritual Practice. She talks about a practice she learned from her mentor, Harry Schofield, called Family Roster. The practice involves each morning calling to mind the members of your family and seeing each person in relation to the others. Holman writes that she adapted this practice to her work. Every day, she takes her calendar and imagines each person, each event of the day to come. Now, the character strength profile notes that the strength of love involves both the giving and receiving of warmth and closeness with others. This is foundational for building healthy, positive relationships. I can see this becoming a regular practice, taking the time in the morning to imagine each person, each event of the day to come. And when someone is called to mind, picture both giving and receiving warmth and closeness with that person. Perhaps even using the standard loving kindness meditation like the one in our teal hymnal, Singing the Journey. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. Why don't you say that along with me? I'll say it once and you repeat it back, okay? May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. And again, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May you be whole. So, here's an invitation for you. As we celebrate coming together through the rock and water ingathering ceremony, keep these words or something similar in mind as each person pours a bit of water and adds a stone to the common container. Take pleasure in the warmth and closeness of your relationships with each other. Be open to the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. Simply abide in the presence of love. Thank you.